So when you work, you don't have 2, 3, 4, 5 children because you can't afford that. And before somebody says to you, but most of the people in poverty are already working, well, this is the same government who've guaranteed that 111,000 young people, since they've come to power, are no longer in work. This is a budget that will destroy the future of young people, destroy struggling families, and destroy our economy.
I saw an article today about a pregnant mum of 4, okay, and she takes home, after benefits, with benefits, £6,150 a month, okay, and that is going to increase now as a result of this. Do you know you'd have to be earning a salary of £135,000 a year to take home that amount of money? I mean, this is where we're at, and you're paying for that. I know people say the kids shouldn't suffer. Like, I get it, the children shouldn't suffer, but what about parental responsibility? And Connie, I know that, you know, we make a big virtue of that there. Sir Keir Starmer saying, bold as brass, it will be country before party. That budget was himself and Rachel Reeves above any of us.
They tell you the economy is strong. They tell you inflation is easing. They tell you to be patient. But your grocery bill says otherwise. Your rent went up. Your utilities climbed. And somehow, despite working just as hard, you're left with less. That feeling isn't failure. It's pressure. Over the past few years, broad economic policies, mass spending, rising interest rates, and currency dilution have quietly reduced the buying power of the average family. Not overnight. Slowly. Subtly. Just enough that you question yourself instead of the system. When money loses value, time loses value. And when time loses value, freedom disappears. That's the real cost.
One of the things I think becomes very apparent, hopefully to all those Bitcoiners out there, is that I think the classic mantra for Bitcoiners is we're taking control of the money printer, right? We're shutting off the money printer. But that actually may well be secondary to the use of the monetary system as a means of control and as a weapon. And because that's actually probably the more powerful thing, in my opinion. And so when we threaten that, I think it's why Keone's where he is today, because that is being threatened, and that is the ultimate scare, especially to the deep state, to the bureaucrats, to the to the inherent meat of the system. And by the way, we're just talking about what's happening in the U.S. As we look at the ECB and some of those other organizations, I think there's going to be very similar retaliatory defensive actions on their part as they're threatened.
Here's what they don't talk about. You're not powerless. Regaining financial strength doesn't start with more money. It starts with control. Control over your choices. Control over your habits. Control over how exposed you are to instability. First, track where every dollar actually goes. Not roughly. Precisely. Awareness is resistance. When you see the leaks, you can seal them. Second, reduce dependence. Pay down variable rate debt. Cut subscriptions you don't use. Learn one practical skill that lowers a monthly expense. Independence compounds. Third, build a buffer. Even a small emergency fund changes everything. It breaks the cycle of panic spending. It turns surprises into inconveniences. That's real security. Fourth, diversify your effort. Relying on a single income stream in an unstable system is risk. Side income isn't greed. It's armor.
But once the reset happens, how many XRP will you need to hold to be essentially considered wealthy, to be considered rich? Like, what will you need to hold? There's a lot of people out there that say 1,000 XRP, 5,000 XRP. But I've been in the game a long time, and I've been in since XRP was around 7 cents. So, talking to somebody a long time ago, the conversation came up, how many XRP will people need to hold to be wealthy? And the conversation pretty much went like this. When the reset happens and XRP, the XRPL, is carrying the bulk of all currency transfers throughout the world, the average human will only need to hold about 10 XRP, 10, to be a millionaire. And at that point in time, being able to hold one will be extremely rare. Only real wealthy people will be able to hold one.
Finally, invest in knowledge. Financial literacy doesn't inflate away. Understanding money gives you leverage no policy can take. This isn't about fear, it's about awareness. This isn't about politics, it's about survival with dignity. Every step toward financial control is an act of quiet rebellion, a refusal to be crushed by systems that don't see you as human, only as a number. Freedom isn't free, but it is reclaimable, and it starts when you decide, I will not drift, I will build.